I'm going to move on. Director Gabbard, you tweeted yesterday that President Trump concluded there was an imminent threat and made a decision to attack Iran after carefully reviewing all of the information before him. I think the country deserves to know what the information was. I'm going to ask a series of questions and just want a yes or no. We don't need any explanation, just yes or no, starting with, were you asked, I'm not asking if you did brief this, were you asked to brief on whether Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz?
I'm not going to comment on what the president did or didn't ask me on any topic.
I'm not asking if you briefed it. I'm just asking if there was a request
I understand
by the White House. Director Ratcliffe, were you asked to brief on whether Iran would close the Strait of Hormuz?
The briefings to the president and the White House typically don't come at the request of the White House. So typically when we get intelligence that we want the president to be aware of, the intelligence community brings that to the president.
Did you produce the analysis for the Straits of Hormuz?
There has been and continues to be analysis with respect to that.
Were you asked to brief on how our adversaries and allies would respond to the war in Iran? I imagine I'll get the same answer. So it's just to point out here, it's challenging to forget about actually what was in the brief for a second. We're having a hard time finding out not only if you briefed the president on something, but even if the White House asked if they could be briefed on something or if analysis was produced. So I just want to point out here, this is about 6 days.
Can I comment on
Yes.
that?
Yes.
I go back to the point. It's the same approach that we took to the prior operations, which to your credit, Senator, you have praised the intelligence and military communities in Operation Midnight Hammer and Operation Absolute Resolve. It's the same approach and the same professionals in terms of how they approached this particular operation.
We're trying to figure out if the president knew what the downside was of the Strait of Hormuz being closed. And I'm having a hard time finding out whether the White House asked or whether there was a brief, whether the president knew. Did he know this was going to happen, or did he just disregard it? And I just want to point out something that was released about 6 days ago. This is a fundraising email from the president of the United States. And in this email here, where there's multiple links to donate money, it says, as a national security briefing member, you'll receive my private national security briefings. Director Gabbard or Director Ratcliffe, do you think the public should be able to, supporters of the president should be able to pay and receive his private national security briefings? I assume these are briefings, Director Ratcliffe, that you provide to the president that is now going to be provided to somebody who makes a
regardless
donation.
of what that I don't know what that document is, but regardless of what it says, it didn't happen.
Oh, no, this is new.
But what I'm telling you is that the Hatch Act would prevent me from an apolitical role from engaging in that. I'm not aware that anything like that happened.
Yeah, this says unfiltered updates. So, Director Gabbard, do you have any comment on whether unfiltered updates of private national security briefings should be made to individuals that donate to the president?
I'm not familiar with that document, and
It's been made very public 6 days ago. We'll get you a copy here because I agree with you, Director Ratcliffe, that the Hatch Act should prohibit this type of conduct. Thank you.
You know that frustrating customer service loop where two departments keep transferring you back and forth because neither claims jurisdiction? Well, imagine that loop, but the stakes are, military action and the global oil supply. Welcome to today's deep dive.
It is definitely a wild scenario.
Right. So today we are unpacking a highly charged C-SPAN transcript. It's a Senate exchange from the previous administration involving Senator Mark Kelly, Director Gabbard, and Director Ratcliffe. And right off the bat, I want to say to you listening, we are looking at this strictly as an impartial case study.
Yes, absolutely neutral. We are not taking sides at all. We just want to analyze how information moves or, well, gets buried at the highest levels of government.
Exactly.
So the core friction here starts with a tweet from Gabbard. She claimed the president attacked Iran after reviewing an imminent threat. And Senator Kelly is just trying to nail down one seemingly simple detail.
Like, was the president fully briefed on the cascading risks of that strike?
Right. Specifically the threat of Iran retaliating by closing the Strait of Hormuz, which, I mean, you know that would choke off a massive chunk of the global oil supply.
Yeah, that is huge. And Kelly isn't even demanding to see the classified analysis itself. He's basically acting like a lawyer trying to establish a timeline. He's just asking, did the White House even request this briefing? Just a yes or no?
Yeah, but the intelligence directors completely sidestepped the premise. It's actually a masterclass in institutional defense.
How so? Like, how do they justify not giving a simple yes or no to Congress?
Well, Ratcliffe uses this structural defense. He focuses on the actual mechanics of how intelligence flows. He argues that the White House doesn't usually order up specific threat assessments, like ordering off a menu. Instead, the intelligence community pushes information up to the Oval Office when they detect a crisis.
Oh, I see. So by explaining the standard operating procedure, Ratcliffe neatly avoids answering the specific question about this specific incident.
Precisely. And to bolster that shield, he leans really heavily on precedent. He specifically cites Operation Midnight Hammer and Operation Absolute Resolve.
Right, previous operations.
Yeah. By invoking those past highly structured operations, he's essentially telling Congress, hey, we treat this Iran situation with the exact same rigorous protocol we always use. He's using bureaucratic consistency as armor.
That is a brilliant deflection. But you can really see Kelly getting nowhere. He can't establish if the president knew the economic risks or, if a brief even exists.
Right, it just hits a wall.
So he changes tactics entirely. He brings up a 6-day-old presidential fundraising email, and this email is literally promising donors private national security briefings and unfiltered updates in exchange for campaign contributions.
Which completely flips the context of the hearing.
It is wild to me. Congress is getting stonewalled on basic oversight, but a campaign is using state secrets as a VIP donor perk. How does Ratcliffe even begin to respond to a pivot like that?
With an immediate jurisdictional firewall. He just flatly denies that any private briefings were shared with donors. And then he drops the Hatch Act.
Oh, the law that prohibits political activity in his role, right?
Exactly. But he doesn't just mention it, he weaponizes it.
Yeah.
Because it prohibits him from campaign politics, he uses it to legally wash his hands of the entire document.
Wow.
He draws a hard line. He's basically like, that is campaign messaging. I am intelligence. I literally cannot touch this.
That is a massive tactical dodge. He uses his legal restriction as an escape hatch. But what about Director Gabbard? I mean, she sent the initial tweet that sparked this whole thing. Does she use the same legal shield?
No, she takes a totally different route. Absolute ignorance. Even though Kelly points out this fundraising email has been public for nearly a week, Gabbard claims she has never seen it and knows nothing about it.
Unbelievable. So Kelly is just stuck.
Yeah. In the end, Kelly actually has to agree with Ratcliffe that the Hatch Act should prevent this crossover. But he still walks away without his original questions answered.
So distilling this for you listening, the asymmetry of accountability here is just staggering. You have the intelligence community utilizing rigid protocol to avoid answering fundamental oversight questions.
Right, and simultaneously, you have a political campaign utilizing the illusion of that very same exclusive intelligence to monetize access.
Exactly, and the public is just left completely in the dark on both fronts.
It really highlights a fascinating gap in modern governance. The tools designed to protect national security, like the Hatch Act, can inadvertently become the exact mechanisms used to deflect congressional oversight.
Which leaves you with something entirely different to ponder. If we normalize the idea of political campaigns promising classified access to their financial backers, even if it is just marketing fluff, how does that impact our credibility on the global stage? If our foreign allies see American intelligence being dangled as a donor perk, at what point do they simply stop sharing their secrets with us? Something to think about.